My apologies for not getting this out way sooner. I've been sitting on this footage since I actually got my cape, but I've been too lazy. I'm not even going to say I've been too busy, because I really haven't been. I've just been playing other stuff, I guess, but here we are, finally, in here. Solo Absolute, okay? I don't recommend this for someone that's literally just learning how to do Absolute, obviously. This is one of those things you try out way later, just to see, just to test yourself. And if you do this regularly, props to you. Probably pretty good. But to me, this is not really the way to play this game solo, without a teammate at least, Because, like, half of the fun is seeing other people's setups, builds, how they play, interacting with that. Like, that's what I find fun, at least. This was a very lonely experience, even though it is cool and it is a little badass to be able to be like, yeah, I did solo absolute before. I'm not gonna sit here and just mainline solo absolute. In my opinion, there is no point. Sure, you can use this to try to get better, but like, where do you go from here? Hard stratagems? Sure. If you like, cock and ball torture, you can do that. But for the most part, you should be playing for fun or towards like a goal, right? Like cosmetic goal, like the capes are, or whatever. And in here, I mean, you're kind of just playing to play at this point. You know what I mean? You could try to solo form out absolute operations, but like, I don't know. I don't like crushing my nuts that hard, so I won't be doing that ever. Sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about footage, and it's already 2 minutes in, and I haven't really said a word about what's going on in the background. We're not even like 5 minutes into this run, as of the recording, right? And as you can see, a Ravener and some Neurothropes, no problem. When you get trapped in a spot like this, you really have to just kind of take the punches and roll with them. As you've seen, I took a lot of damage here and there because Raveners are cool. I had a little greedy point right there while I was trying to get as much damage as I could on that, and of course he hits me. Really, you should try not to be as greedy like that. Like, yeah, you can get damage out, but try to do it safely, alright? You don't want to get smacked up, lose all that health that you just earned or whatever, just for a little bit more damage. It's not worth it, especially in a run where any down means it's over, no matter what. So really, you should play it safe in these kind of scenarios. And it does translate to normal gameplay. Even if you have people backing you up, you don't want to have to really inconvenience them by always having to be picked up or whatever. You want to be able to handle yourself, alright? So try to play smart with, the specials and all that. Whenever you're around a bunch of, regular warriors and one Ravener, for example, it's not really that much of a difference than just fighting a bunch of warriors. But of course, they throw the Neurothrope in, all of a sudden you have a problem because there's a ranged unit. If there's any ranged unit that was the warrior, you'd have to deal with them first as well. Like, target prioritization is huge in Absolute. Anybody that's able to do range stuff against you, in my opinion, is priority number one. Granted, say for like the Hormagaunts, like, yeah, they're annoying, but only when there's like 20, since they're not really a problem unless there is a bunch of them. You really want to focus on anybody that is annoying at a range, which Neurothropes are pretty much the spitting image of what I just said. Most annoying guys, since they can also hit you through walls, the safety things, cover, it's not safe to them. They just shoot right through that shit. Not the orbs, but the, like, straight beam, that one right there, you see? That just goes through whatever, they don't care. So pretty much, you want to deal with these guys as quick as possible, right? Granted, in a situation like mine, no ammo, no nothing to my name, kind of have to just deal with, what they're throwing at you until you either perfect dodge them, or, in the case of one of my perks coming up, I'll have a grenade in like however many seconds. You could use that and whittle them down, but, you're only going to have so many opportunities to do that. With my health dwindling and more guys rolling in, it's not looking pretty for me already. If a mistake is gonna happen, I would rather it happen in the very beginning of this run, basically, this section, because I can just reset, no problem. So I'm not really sweating the low HP and the few guys swarming me. Thankfully, though, The Neurothrope throws 2 laser beams out at me, and I somehow got the perfect dodge off. I never get those. Not even gonna sit here and try to brag about me getting that, like, on the routine. That was lucky. I'll be honest with you. I usually just dodge them early. This time, though, it just happened to be the perfect timing, and I finished that. Thankfully, because otherwise I don't know how I would have got through that little section there. And of course, not even like a couple of seconds later, I'm just besieged by so many more. Granted, it's a bunch of little guys and I've got no ammo, but this leads into more, of course, because as you can see, got this like redhead, crimson head guy coming at me. I have to fight all of this with no ammo. If you're in this scenario, I recommend not focusing on how many small guys there are, just like parry the occasional one if they try to hit you, but focus on obviously all the warriors, right? Because you kill them, kill a bunch of small guys around them. So really, I only have like, what, 5 targets here? But obviously that's not how it actually works in game, so in practice, alright, I only had to deal with, a handful of guys. Granted, all the shots being thrown at me says otherwise, but it's not really that bad, alright, if you look at it like that. It could be worse, and it can be and does get worse in these kind of levels, so, just be patient with yourself and try to think about any kind of game plans you have, right? Like, you get to this point by knowing enemy patterns, movesets, all this shit, right? That's the kind of stuff you need to work on, while you're on Substantial and Lethal and Ruthless. Work on all that shit gradually, okay? Don't have to push yourself immediately just for these capes, okay? Sure, they look great, okay? They do. But is it mandatory? Nah. Not at all. So don't, destroy your fun for this game by trying to go for these, right? Like, you try to play this game, and any game really for that matter, for fun. At least, that's what gaming should be about, is for fun, So don't try to overdo this and, end up, resenting the game, all that shit. Just play where it's comfortable, okay? And if you're gonna do this, and if you want to play on Absolute at some point, my tip to you is this, alright? Main one, I've used this in a bunch of other games, right? You play at a difficulty, let's just say normal, right? Usually your first playthrough. After a while, it becomes easier, because obviously you know the game. You know the things, you know what to look for, you know mechanics, whatever. When you hit that point where it's too easy for you, bump up the difficulty and redo all that again. But this time, obviously, you know from the past experiences that you know moveset, you know this, you know that. You have knowledge, right? So you're not fully resetting. Alright? You do that until that difficulty becomes just like, the other difficulty was to you. Too goddamn easy. And then you move on. You just keep going until you reach that new state of comfort, which is like way up here in terms of skill, if you will, because you've done all this shit. You've done a gradual climb of the skills, of the difficulties. You've learned things on your own pace. Maybe somebody told you about it, and you're like, oh shit, eye-opening moment. There's small things like that go into it, sure, but as an example, alright, I have done Ultra Nightmare on Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages, right? Which, for the uninitiated, it's basically just a permadeath mode on the hardest difficulty, okay? And doing that took a lot of running through the game on the difficulty that it's based off of, right? Nightmare, which is just essentially hard, right? It's like really hard difficulty. The only real difference between the two is permadeath, right? So you can practice on one to prepare you for the other. Real quick, I shouldn't have taken that gun strike. Don't take gun strikes when he's charging you. That's just stupid. Anyways, when you practice on a difficulty, and you get used to it, it only takes so much time for you to realize, like, oh, this is not enough for me anymore. And you bump it up. Going back to Doom, I had to play through the entirety of Eternal and Dark Ages, at least once or twice on Nightmare. I ran the missions multiple times. We're talking 10s, 20 times, until I felt comfort. Now, how my criteria worked for it was like, if I got through a level without dying, obviously that meant I could be ready, right? But that also meant that I could have made a mistake at any point in that mission, and it could have just been over, right? So you have to do it multiple times without dying in order for it to solidify in your mind, like, yes, I do know what to do. I have all the answers for these scenarios, yada yada. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. Apply that to Space Marine. You play on lethal until you feel like you just can see the code. Until you are literally fucking in the Matrix, basically. You're Neo in this bitch, alright? And you understand everything. Then you bump it up. Do it again. Keep going. Trying to clean up the playstyle. Now, that's if need be, of course. If you feel like you're moving through things at a good pace, don't worry about it. But, like, a good example of that for me was if I got a parry, I would instinctively go for a gun strike, no matter what was happening right then and there. I mean, you've seen it in the background footage. I just had a Carnifex run me over like freight train just because my brain said, ooh, gun strike. Don't take them immediately every single time, okay? It's not worth it. You can lose a lot of health or even die doing that shit. You take the parry, and you go, alright? Then if it's safe, you can do the gun strike. It's just one of those things that I've gone down to a ton of times. It's the mistake I've made probably the most in this game, other than mistiming like parries and stuff, right? That's one that I could actively work on, and I have. Granted, it's not perfect, but it's there. I know at least don't always take the gun strike. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about, like cleaned up a little bit. You only learn that stuff by being punished on every other difficulty, or this one even, and then thinking about like, okay, what am I messing up, right? Of course, it is a lot easier to do that when you like record your stuff and watch it back, but the average guy isn't going to do that. The average person, okay, is just going to play, and usually they're going to wonder like, why did this miss? Why did that whiff? Whatever. It's worth at least seeing, you know, like your own footage, watching yourself. I mean, just try it at least once, and you might see something. Because I know once I did, I immediately started clocking things, you know? Anyways, though, I've gone through so much of the specials here in this mission while trying to just, you know, give you, like, broad stroke tips, right? Or even just, like, examples of how this shit worked for me. In this place, I already had to carve through a couple of biovores, and it's mainly just a bunch of gaunts, right? Now, that's not really a problem, but you don't want to have a bunch of guys shooting at you while you're putting objectives on walls. Granted, in this section, if you're playing with a whole ass team, you never have to worry about that shit usually. Because, like, even one guy shooting at you is whatever, right? But if everybody has their attention on you, you have to kind of fix everything first before you do anything. Thankfully, they don't always have the best to aim. This whole place kind of does, like, you know, they funnel you in here, and they're like, hey, throw the bombs up on there, and they're trying to, like, trap you in here. But in my opinion, it's not that bad. You know, like 8 times out of 10. Granted, you will have times in here where it's like, this is fucking hell. But, you know, that's if they make you go upstairs, downstairs. Like, those are the times where it can be a little rough in here. If you go through here quickly, you should be okay. Should is that emphasis that I'm putting on there, okay? Granted, if you have a bunch of warriors like this guy just trying to shoot at me, and if they line you up properly, it can be pretty bad. But for the most part, those guys, yes, they are giant assholes, and they deserve every bit of ass-kicking you give them. But for the most part, they are just, like, normal, you know, warriors, right? They're not going to take much damage, thankfully, as long as you're getting headshots, that is. And since I have, like, a ranged setup, my guns just do enough damage to them, and if I need even more, I grapple to them. So for me, these guys just fall over, usually, but the moment they get that lucky shot, it's definitely felt. Because like you saw earlier with the Carnifex, right? You can do as much dodging as you want, and sometimes they just full-on heat-seeking you. It's like, bam, right here. You are not getting away from that shit. They just locked in the shot, you know what I mean? It just happens. Like, it's bound to happen, okay? You gotta take those shots and just keep going, you know? You're gonna get hit, you're gonna take damage. The important part is to know how do you recover from it without always having to use a med stim, right? Like, that's mainly a Vanguard thing, and I guess Bulwark can abuse that too with the banner, right? But for the most part, that really only applies to so many classes. And for the most part, everybody else will have to actually try that much harder than like a Vanguard would have to, or a Bulwark, because we have, you know, that built-in cushion. Alright, I'll just say it, I'll admit it. We have it slightly easier because of perks, right? That's Vanguard mainly I'm speaking about. Like, Bulwark has that one that I can think of that makes it better for them to heal, but it's like, it's one perk and, you know, the cooldown and all that. Oh yeah, by the way, you see how I was trying to be so careful? Right before I put that thing on, a bunch of spores come up. Sometimes you gotta just take the hit and go, man. Like, they just keep constantly spawning stuff in Absolute. So you need to be moving. You need to be doing the objective while fighting, and you kind of need to not stop. Unless you're in an area where you can just fight until they're gone. If you have an objective to do, chances are you might want to do that whenever you have, like, you know, somebody parried, you're about to gun strike, or if someone's blinking for the execute. Like, you gotta be able to multitask a little bit. It even helps when you're fighting the hordes to be able to do that, so, you know, try to fight more than one guy at a time. Sorry, you might see here and there, like, a couple of, like, little skips like that. This was, like I was saying, made right after I got my cape, right? And I was trying to find a thumbnail for this, for the last video, I mean. So, yeah, there's a couple times where I had to kind of skip ahead because I was trying to find, you know, good thumbnail. Here I am, showing you actively right there why you don't want to always take a gun strike right when you get it. If you have 4 warriors coming in to smack you, like, yeah, that's obviously a bad time to take a gun strike, but as you probably know, if you gun strike, it does send them all back a little bit, like you just saw there. It's a quick stun like that, but it's not worth it if you're gonna just fall over, you know? So, be patient, and don't panic if you actually do get hit, because, you know, obviously it does hurt, but if you're coming up on a section like this, they have supplies for you, right? They have stuff for you to recover and keep going. You aren't always going to have that, though, so you want to play it like, you know, kind of on your own at all times with next to nothing to resupply you other than ammo. I did get a few things here and there. I got my Pyroblaster canister. It wasn't working when I tried to activate it. I think it's because, obviously, this isn't like, you know, you activate the button kind of thing. You have to shoot it, right, while it's flying through the air. And since I threw it without anybody being there, can't really, you know, gun strike it that easily, right? So I had to just try and manually shoot this thing after a certain time. Thankfully, I did hit it. This whole section's kind of, I don't know, it's not really that crazy to me. Like, it can be worse, but I hardly ever see, like, specials here. It's only just warriors and gaunts every single time, which, you know, I'm not going to complain about. I like fighting these guys, so I'm cool with that. But I feel like this part could be, you know, spiced up just a little bit, you know, just a tiny bit. Throw a little bit extra at us, you know. Granted, some people probably think, what the fuck are you talking about, you dumbass? That's just me. Like, I like it when things get crazy in this game, so there's that. But considering it's just warriors and gaunts, it's just parry, kill them, you kill a bunch of the little guys around you. You have explosives set up around the place, so use those. I mean, this one really shouldn't be that bad. Like, one whole side should be completely shut down if you play it right, and nobody even comes up on that end. Granted, you know, that's if you have the right equipment and you have the right guns, play your cards right. That's why I'm kind of struggling to give any tips in this area, because it is really just like the simplest of enemies thrown at you. And it's like, yeah, there's a good chunk of them, but, you know, if you play it right, like, you only really have to watch one side, because you've already dealt with this entire side just easily, you know? I don't know. This whole section, like I was saying, could be a little bit harder to do, but, you know, it doesn't need to be. I would just like it to be a little bit more challenging sometimes in this part. But it's part of the fun, I guess, is that this one's kind of an easy intermission section before you go on to even crazier ones. I don't know how many Raveners and Neurothropes and fucking Lictors I've killed in this one mission, right? It was only like a couple of Biovores. They really didn't throw those guys at me. But Raveners and Lictors and Neurothropes, obviously, they love throwing those guys at us in there. My god. I don't know if it's because they sense that it's just the one guy, and if it's like, you know, old tech of, like, you know, if you ever played Left 4 Dead, you would understand what I mean. Is like, if you go off by yourself, there's always a smoker, there's always a hunter, and if you played, obviously, too, they'd be like jockeys and stuff, right, and charges, but it's like the game knows you're by yourself, so they're like let's get the guy that pins them or surprises them out, out of nowhere. It's like, that ain't gonna work all the time. Like, sure, if it's in the middle of a massive horde, this would work, hence why I thought it would work better in the last section. But when you're isolated like that, it's over in less than a minute. It's not even a challenge. I struggled to think about, should I pick up the grenades there or should I just keep mine and wait for the cooldown? I figured the Pyre Blaster is better, so I just went with that instead and just waited for the cooldown rather than pick up some measly frag grenades, right? Like, they're good, but I value the utility of a Pyre Blaster canister, or even a Melta Bomb for that matter, man. Like, could have used any of them here because it's all just crowds, right? And mind you, that tip I said earlier about just killing the warriors usually, it's kind of like the whole plan I have all the time when I see them. Like, you probably notice I barely even shoot at the little guys because most of the time you don't even need to. This whole section right here, though, we're almost there to the boss by this point. And man, this part was brutal, okay? Already here I've missed parry. They try to reinforcements call. They have a Ravener, and they have 2 Neurothropes slowly closing in on me. I don't know, like I said, how many of all those guys I took out in this whole thing, but I swear, they just kept spamming those hoes at me. Now, it wasn't that bad. As you can see, just a couple parries, and, the Neurothropes are, closing the gap. But for the most part, they aren't even really an issue. They might as well not be there, okay? Since, especially if you can juggle these guys well enough where it's like, okay, I'm in an execution, when the Neurothrop hits me, it helps, right? But then I got greedy, and then this guy grabs me. Now, Bank, before I stopped playing, this would have just downright not given me any contested health. Like, we would have lost all of that shit. So they made it a lot easier nowadays than it was back then, before Absolute was even a thing, right? But I think, they didn't change that until a little, like, later, right? Like, that was not something that's, a thing for however long, right? You used to be punished hard for grabs. As you can see here, I'm just using my cover best I can, and that shows off the beam going right through it. You just have to be careful with these guys, man. Now, right here, I got greedy for the, like, just get the kill, I guess. Like, try to kill them both or something. I don't know. I wasn't trying to just execute one, right? I don't know what I was doing. Just get the executes, man. Kill them as fast as possible. Don't even let them recover, because that could have been very bad. Now, all of that fighting that I just did, and there's more guys in here, and they managed to get a reinforcement call off. Now, as you can probably see from my ammo, it's not looking great. I'm usually the kind of guy that wants to take every single fight and clear the area, right? You gotta realize when you gotta drop that, though, because when they've called in reinforcements on me like that, and I have nothing, I turn around and I look and I see, like, there's a bunch of stuff coming at me, mainly the spore mines. I can just smell a biovore. So I'm not having that. I'm getting the hell out of there. You gotta know when to just drop a fight and go, man, because it will be worth it if you can get away. I didn't have to deal with any of that bullshit after this. Fucking thankfully. Dear God, I could not have managed that there. There was another moment there I was trying to get a thumbnail. That's why it skipped ahead slightly here, alright? Sorry. But it was just a bunch of, warriors and hormigons, man, again. Like, this whole section here, thankfully, was easy for me. It was just run-of-the-mill guys. You run up, you get a bunch of headshots, and you drop the guy, basically. Everything else around him drops. At the end of the day, it does boil down to just that. Like, over and over again, that is my game plan. Just grapple to a guy, mag dump on his head. If he, dies by, like, the 10th shot, then so what? But if I can get the execute, huge. Massive, even. You kind of have to learn what your game plan is as you keep playing. Hence why I was mentioning do a lot of runs on easier difficulties and get that kind of muscle memory down. Get your game plans down, what you're going to do in what scenario. Should be good. Now, finally here, at the door. The boss is right here behind this shit, and all I gotta do is take him out by myself. Did a real quick check to show you. Yeah, I'm on Absolute, and I'm by myself. Nobody's joined this whole fucking time because it's on private, alright? Now, going into here, I had to know that I was good on armor, good on everything else before I was actually ready to press this button and initiate the fight. Oh man, this fight. I'd fought him a ton of times on my way to getting the cape, but I've never fought this guy like toe to toe, tip to tip. Alright? Never done that shit. So this is a first for me as well. And honestly, I think I did okay. We have a decent standoff for like 99% of this fight. Alright, me and him. It's a good back and forth, over and over again. I miss a couple of things here and there. Typically, if you want to do this kind of fight a little bit easier, dodge over parries 9 times out of 10, and you should be alright. He doesn't have a lot of moves where it's parryable. Obviously, he has parryable moves, but just look at the footage in the background. You'll see a good chunk of these attacks are red. Now, he does have some strings of attacks with, you know, he throws another blue in there more than once, but just be ready to dodge more than you are to parry, okay? 9 times out of 10, it'll save your ass. 7 times out of 10. So, you know, do with that what you will. Granted, in the middle of the fight, I think it's like, as you can see, he's about half HP. He starts to spawn other guys, right? If there's a warrior in there, it's an easy, just like one and done, basically, right? And if you get him with the equipment charges, even faster. But, you know, it's not always going to be that smooth and simple, okay? There's always going to be a couple of stragglers you got to take out. And in my case, that actually got me hit, but thankfully, it was only armor. Now, this guy, he has, in this first phase, just a bunch of like, oh, I swing and I tank, I don't really, like, I charge a little bit, but then I try to jump on you. These are the ones with, like, the string like that. Just be ready to dodge more, man. Take the gun strike if you see that he's done swinging. If he's gonna attack again, dodge away and then do it. As you can see here, I've taken a good chunk of damage. Of course, it's when I'm reloading, so I can't get all my contested health back. I have a spare stim, just in case, but, you know, scenarios like that are gonna happen. You're gonna have to just accept that you've lost that HP if it's gonna happen to you. That's what I did by this point. And you gotta just keep going. Like, you have to almost know what attack he's gonna do right when he starts to do it, or even before he starts to do it. You wanna, like, play, not predictionary with him, but, like, reactionary, right? If he slams and you get away from him, you probably know his reaction will be to chase you down, so you need to be ready for the dodge, right? You see what I'm saying? You kind of have to be ready for it. If you know his moveset, it makes it a ton easier, of course, but, you know, if you don't, you gotta do it, right? You gotta expose yourself to him to learn it, alright? You can sit here and study videos all you fucking want, but your muscle memory needs to be up there as well. Like, you need to train your hands and, you know, your fingers to do that shit, alright? And you gotta train them the timing. You gotta fucking teach them, you know, this in comparison to, like, oh, he looks like this, now I need to do it. You see what I'm saying? Like, actually fight him and learn him, then it should be alright. I didn't really think I would even get this far on this attempt, right? Which, you know, it was surprising to me that this is the first attempt I ever did at this, right? And it was just, like, baffling to me because I came in here just to get a goddamn thumbnail from the last video, right? And then I'm here fighting the Hive Tyrant. Like, what? I don't have a way to stop him from doing this move like the Assault players do. I've seen so many of them just ground pound him and it staggers him out of that move. I have to actually fight him here, so every single time he does it, it's not really an opening for me. It's more of a, you know, breathing second or two, but I still have to do something. We're about halfway on his health now and he spawns all the little guys, right? Not a single warrior. And it was right here when I was trying to think on what to do next. That's a problem I have, is like the second I stop to actually think about what I'm doing, that's when I fuck up. That's when mistakes can happen, and it just can snowball from there. And let me be honest with you, it wasn't looking good for me right there. I had to use my stim. That was my last one that I'd found too. And since my strategy of taking out the warrior to take out the gaunts wasn't really applicable here, I kinda had to do things the old-fashioned way. Look for my opening from the Tyrant, which, you know, I had to basically just let him do whatever move he's gonna do, and if, you know, say this ground pound, I have the time, I take the time, clear a few, focus on him again. There is no, like, other way to do that in that scenario other than, like, if you get Melted Bomb, right? But Thankfully, that one slash he threw at me went to the ground, and I knew, like, right then and there, that would have ended the run if that had landed, man. Like, there is no world where that hits me and I recover from that. I think that slash would have just straight up downed me. Like, no joke. I'm not even, like, trying to be funny or anything. That shit would have fucked me up. Ended the run right there, man. Thankfully, though, he did enough moves where, like, all the small guys can get shot while he's doing whatever fucking animation he was doing. And by this point, you might be able to tell I'm stressing a little bit in the gameplay. Like, I am doing my damnedest to not fuck up and give him free hits, man, because we're both so close to death right here. And, if I fuck up at any point, it's not going to feel great, we're pretty deep in the mission. And, when I was talking about how I make mistakes when I start thinking about stuff, well, that did start to happen a little bit here and there. But thankfully, I was able to do this. I got to see the most well-earned victory screen I had had in this entire game, even going back to the very beginning when I started. Here are the stats, even, if you want to see that. Doesn't surprise me that they're as crazy as they are. All those kills, all that damage, because I was solo on Absolute. Just makes sense.